Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Brought to you by Junk Be Gone and the Garza Law Firm.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Welcome in. You caught me looking over here. Something was going wrong with my computer right before the show. Welcome into the Sports Source. Happy to have you here. By the way, when the cameras are off, much of the time I'm doing this. So that's what you saw there. We welcome you in. Thanks for being here. We've got a lot of Tennessee football to talk about. They had their first scrimmage this week. We'll tell you what Josh Heupel said about that. We'll discuss were things that might be taken as bad signs actually good signs. And then there's a lot of lists going around right now in the college and pro sports world. Everybody's putting their lists together because it creates good arguments. I hate that kind of thing. So later in the show, we'll do our own list. The best 10 players of the last 10 years here at the University of Tennessee. It'll be interesting just in terms of the candidate list, and we'll describe that as we go along. This first segment, let's get right into it. It's brought to you by our friends at the Garza Law Firm. We've all heard the term neighborly advice. When it comes to legal advice, be sure to get it from a neighbor, meaning a team of trained, proven attorneys who are right here in East Tennessee. That's what you get when you call Knoxville's own Marcos Garza and the Garza Law Firm. There are a lot of law firms out there that are advertising in Knoxville who aren't in Knoxville. That doesn't make a lot of sense. When you need an attorney, go to garzalaw.com to learn more. All right, let's welcome in the first group of panelists that we have today. We have someone else waiting in the wings. Bob Hodge, longtime sports writer, longtime member. You've been here since the very first show. Bob, thanks for being here.
Glad to still be here.
Time's wearing out.
Yeah.
Okay. Right there, Josh Ward from WNML AM and FM. Josh, you can hear him Monday through Friday from noon to 3. Josh, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Sean.
And you can hear this guy all over the sports animal. He's WNML AM and FM as well. That's Vince Ferrara. You fill in, pop in, show up. You do the web stuff. You're just Mr. Everything over there. Vince Ferrara, thanks for being here.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Sean.
All right. Vols held their first scrimmage, as I mentioned. That happened on Thursday. Since no one was allowed in, we're all reacting to Josh Heupel's comments. It's always fun to read the stories that come out after it that don't really say that. They're like, well, here's what happened. It's like, no, that's what Josh Heupel told you happened. You weren't there. So anyway, we won't lie to you like that. Josh Heupel said the defense kind of led the day. He said he saw the exact quote was, he saw glimpses of positive things from the offense. Seems confident the offense will be good. We certainly know his track record with the offense, but may come as a surprise to some that the defense actually had the better day in the first scrimmage. Let's start with the quarterbacks, though. Of the three who took part, and we'll get to that a little later, but of the three who took part, Vince, there wasn't a lot of consistency. That seemed to be the word coming out of there. Your thoughts on the fact that first scrimmage, Milton, Bailey, Hooker all had moments. None of them really strung them together.
Well, I think part of that you have to consider is Josh Heupel probably has a pretty high standard on offense and for his quarterback. So I think that's something to keep in mind. And obviously he spends a lot of time on that side of the ball, so he's going to want the level of efficiency. And honestly, they're going to need it because that's, I think, really what's going to give Tennessee a chance to be competitive this year is if they can elevate that offense, and it's honestly going to be more enjoyable for the fans. But they had a couple of 3-and-outs, and they'd give those guys an extra series afterwards to sort of even out the plays. I thought that was an interesting part of it, is that there wasn't a big discrepancy in the number of plays that the quarterbacks got, that at least for that first scrimmage you wanted to make it even. I've said it on our station, I think that Joe Milton is going to be the guy. I don't think it's a landslide. I don't think he can't lose it or anything, but if he executes well in that second scrimmage and continues to show that upside he has, I think he'll be the guy.
He's got the tool set,
Yep.
more so than the other guys. So you would hope that he is the guy. Josh Ward, one guy who has suddenly gone AWOL again, is Brian Maurer. Looked like he was dropped to fourth in terms of who was getting reps, while the other three were still competing. He suddenly disappears. Josh Heupel hasn't put a nail in that coffin, unless he's done so this morning. I haven't seen it. He hasn't put a nail in that coffin yet. Maurer hasn't hit the transfer portal yet, unless I've missed it today. So is this the end for Brian Maurer, though? Is the writing on the wall finally that this is probably the last story we're going to have about Brian Maurer at Tennessee?
Probably so, and the reasons would be obvious that we went into the fall thinking Brian Maurer was probably fourth in the quarterback race, and then practice started up, and we found out for sure that Brian Maurer was fourth in the quarterback race, and then he found it out. And I don't know how you make that up other than injury. Now, on Tennessee side, that's what you fear. While you don't plan on the fourth quarterback having to play, Tennessee fans have seen the fourth quarterback have to play in Knoxville. So being down to 3 scholarship quarterbacks could potentially down the road put you in a tough spot. But Brian Maurer's gone through a lot in a short amount of time at Tennessee, and he has not factored into the quarterback competition. So, yeah, I would say what you said. This is probably the end.
Guy's played through injury. Guy has opened up about depression that he's dealt with in his own life. He has some difficult things in his own life story behind him. You wish him nothing but the best, because he certainly went out there and gave it his best for a long time. Looked good. I know a lot of people at times said, "Oh, he's the guy. Let him be the guy." He had that penchant for throwing into coverage, though, that was hard to get over. But it would appear, as of now, that is the end of the Brian Maurer story at Tennessee. But we've thought that before, so we'll see. Bob, let me ask you. The offense is supposed to be grease lightning, and the defense is supposed to stink this year. But scrimmage number 1, defense looked better than the offense. All right, do you take that as a good sign? Because you know the offense is going to be fine under. Do you think that's a good thing that the defense actually won the day? Or do you look at it and say, first scrimmage, defense is always ahead of the offense?
I'm going to look at it that way, and I'm also going to say that some of the things that you've been reading about of how the defensive line is taking it to the offensive line, and the defensive line has been more aggressive, and Rodney Gardner talking about, hey, man, this bunch has gotten so much better since the spring.
And he's saying he still wants more. Obviously.
And he still wants more. I don't feel real good about that, because your offensive line is going to be the key to how good this team is. And I would like the optimistic side of me. Okay, this bunch is going to come out here. Defense is going to be better than we expected. Hoo-ha, we're going to have this good offense, and it's going to be a better team than we think. It worries me that your offensive line is not holding up better against the defensive line that, quite honestly, you go, oh, yeah, I remember I read about him back in June, and he came here from there. So, no, I don't think it's a good thing that your defense is ahead of your offense. Maybe that's just me being Mr. Negative.
You can afford to be optimistic. All right. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the line play. I think that's a good stepping off point. So we're going to run through all the line guys out there, offense, defense. Does Tennessee have the horses and depth to compete for, say, the 4th spot in the SEC East, which everybody, by all accounts, that would be a great year, I think, to get to 4th in the SEC. Do they have the bodies, the talent, the depth on the line, offense and defense, to do that? Let's take a look at those names when we come back.